are.
We're live on the internet. I don't know why. I've totally stolen that from a different podcast. It just makes me happy.
Don't say their name or we'll get in trouble or something like that.
I won't. Though, to be honest, I feel like if they even mentioned it, even in those bastards kind of way, it would only help us.
That's true. That's true.
They have an average viewership around the 40 to 50,000 people. So
if only a handful of them would come join us. If only. Well, welcome to week 4 of the Tribal Mischief podcast. Jake Bush here.
Ethan Baird here.
And whiskey here.
I went with the daiquiri.
I went with the straight bottle of 100 proof, new riff, 100 proof bottled in bond bourbon. Ethan's going to be our cocktail guru, and I will be our whiskey guru for this little podcast adventure.
Super fair.
We'll switch it up every once in a while. I wouldn't be surprised. My wife likes to poke her head in while I'm working. I wouldn't be surprised if one week she just pokes her head in, smiles, and hands me a cocktail and leaves. So
she's good like that. She's definitely good like that.
She is.
So we should probably, I realized you and I have a lot of conversations about what the plan is and what we're trying to do. I don't know that we share some of it, but we don't need to share everything. So this is season 1 of the podcast. Jake and I decided that our seasons are going to run 12 episodes long, and they are weekly. Our goal is to, during a straight season, never taking a week off. That might mean somewhere down the line, not right now, but somewhere down the line, you might eventually see a guest host come in. But for the time being, it's you're putting up with the two of us. Right now, the conversations are really based on what's going on in the world. We are from the music community, and that is sort of our home and sort of the lens that we look at through everything with. But there is also the greater understanding of our community in a greater sense, and what they're going through, and how we as people that really want to be allies can learn to be better allies. So we're having those conversations, and it doesn't hurt that most of those conversations are with people that we adore. So it becomes sort of a fun process, I think, all around. Jake, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to sort of add right here off the beginning.
We've been super excited to have the folks that we've had on thus far. We kicked it off with Adam Ezra, who I think tonight was night 108 of the gathering, and he is actually headed back to Boston. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play live 1 week from yesterday. My first live music experience since the pandemic started. We had Randy Green and Dan Whitener from Gangsta Grass. They kicked some gangsta ass last week. We had Ellis Paul they were 2 weeks ago, and we had Ellis Paul last week. We're psyched for our guest this week, and we've really been looking for a sort of diverse set of voices. We're aware that all of the voices have been male so far. We will be changing that up in the very near future. We are working on filling out the rest of this season. We have some amazing guests through the rest of the season, including tonight, not to exclude our guest tonight, who's backstage right now, dancing and celebrating. It's great. We could see him. You can't, but you will. You will. And I'm saying it right now. He will dance for you. No, so we've been really excited so far with all the guests that we've had. We are, again, trying for diverse conversations. We come from the folk community, which we like to think of ourselves as inclusive and diverse, but we know that we're perhaps not as diverse as we should be. And we're working on that, and Ethan and I have always wanted to sort of broaden the tent that we're under, widen the tent that we're under, and bring more people in, more perspectives.
That's literally the perfect analogy as we head into festival season, because I usually refer to it as opening the doors wider, but as we get into this summer, this virtual summer, so many of us are used to going to these events of 8 to 30,000 people on a hill, just with just magnetic community surrounding the notion of music and music appreciation and all of these things. And I know, the mixed blessing that you and I have as we're kicking this off is we're doing it in a time where all of a sudden people who are super busy might have a little bit of time to have a conversation with us, because COVID has kind of slowed some people down, but other people, it has done the opposite. And the person that we have tonight is kind of the poster child for that scenario. When COVID started and every one of our musician friends looked at their schedule of dates and were like, canceled. This person had to do the opposite, which is, I can't cancel. I don't have that option. What do I do and how do I do it? And one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to having the conversation is because I think that's something that we all need to hear. We need to hear not just the everything's bad, everything's different, I don't like it, but wow, there are some really interesting things happening. And I feel like I'm creating too much mystique, so we may as well just sort of pull the seal and say our guest this week is Justin Nordell, director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society.
Wait, give him a sec. He's pulling clothes on. Hang on.
Oh, all good.
There we
as long as he's pulling them on. All right.
Oh,
I think he's yeah.
We're gonna bring him in.
There we go.
There he is.
Hi.
Justin Nordell, everybody.
How's it going?
So, it's going great. Thanks for joining us, man.
Of course. Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome, I guess. It's good to see you. There's I really wanted to have a conversation with you for a couple of reasons. One of which is I think what you're doing with the Philadelphia Folksong Society, and the way that you hit the ground running like day one of this quarantine existence. And it was Mari Black. Was that the the first artist that we did?
Yep.
And I'll let you tell the story, but just seeing what you did, there were a lot of people sort of sitting there looking at the world through, well, I'll just use my iPhone and right. Do these things. And you hit the ground running and had, I believe was it a couple hundred people or something like that?
Yeah, we had we were able to make over $2,000 for Mari on what would have been a canceled show, and we had well over 100 people that were actively participating in our first live stream. So this was March 13th that we did the concert. On March 12th of the year of our Lord 2020, may it end eventually. On March 12th, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, which for those of you that don't know geography is a whopping, 1 mile down the road from our venue in Philadelphia, they went on lockdown. They had a cluster outbreak of COVID that they announced on the 12th was really genuinely something to be concerned about. So as soon as that occurred, I knew that out of all of the statements that we had made to our membership and our ticket buyers of what we were going to do to keep them safe, there were no options anymore. There was no way to keep people safe when there was a cluster outbreak less than a mile from where we were. Add to that, we had a full weekend of shows. We were doing Mari on the Friday the 13th. We had Quarter Horse, also a wonderful New England Northeast act that we love, on Saturday the 14th. And then we had a third act on the 15th, all of which those shows were poised to have way too many people in a room. I also had a very, very sobering phone call, which was a woman that called from the hospital and said, "Hey, I have tickets to the Quarter Horse show on Saturday. Can I get my money back?" And I was like, "Absolutely. Just wanted to let you know I haven't announced it yet. We're going to postpone so we can, push your ticket to there or give you a refund, whatever works best for you." To which she said, "Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm just in the hospital right now." "Oh, Okay, I'll bite. What are you doing in the hospital? Oh, I tested positive for COVID. Just feels like a bad cold, but I don't think I should come on Saturday. So this is the early stages, people. We're talking March 12th. I got this phone call.
Wow.
But if this woman who just had a bad cold hadn't had the foresight to go to the hospital and get tested, if this band and I had not come to the agreement to postpone their show and had still moved forward, there were 90 people poised to be in that room that could have all been infected, including myself, including an artist that I love. So it became very real very quickly for me. And so with Mari, who was already in town, I couldn't just, cancel the show. I couldn't just say to her, oh, I know you came all this way. I know we've been trying to get a show together for the better part of 3 years. Let's do it again in 2021. We decided that we would try to figure out a way to make a live stream work and make it profitable for her. So we reached out to the entirety of the ticket buyers for the concert, 100% of whom said, yes, I will absolutely live stream the show, use my ticket as a live stream, donate it to Mari. I'll even buy her merch and have you mail it to me. I'll give more money to support her. I'll even give a donation to support the society. And then we had over 100 other people that wouldn't have been able to see the concert. We had people in 4 countries. We had people in many different time zones. So we were really, really thrilled that from the get-go, hitting the ground running, being able to stream live from our venue safely into people's homes was a model that we were able to show that could not only work, it could work well and it could be profitable for an artist.
And
So
you did. Sorry,
Ethan, go ahead.
And you did it so well. Like, I know you have a lot of meetings with your peers, other venue bookers, and one of the things that you were really one of the first voices to say that a lot of the smaller venues kind of hadn't thought of, and immediately were like, oh, was the realization that you don't have to get a visa if you're streaming a show. And you started doing these shows with performers in Scotland and Canada and all over the world, people who otherwise would have had far more red tape and processing cost. That is one of those things that I think afterwards everyone was like, well, of course, but you were sort of one of those first people that made use of that and sort of popularized it.
Well, I feel very privileged in my role as the executive director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society that I've been able to go to some incredible music conferences, such as Folk Alliance International, such as the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance Conference, and such as a number of different conferences throughout Canada, such as Folk Music Ontario, Trier d'Or. I got to go to Arts Wells out in British Columbia, Music Newfoundland and Labrador, and I've gotten to see such incredible talent that I have been just itching to present to U.S. audiences, but it's hard. It's very hard as a musician to come into the United States to perform. The visa costs alone are prohibitive, and then you're asking these artists to come and do, door deals, just like most musicians who are on the up and up are doing, and there's no guarantee that they're going to make any money, let alone lose tons. So to have a model right now where there is no loss to an artist, where all they have to do is to go live and they don't have to spend that visa, I've been able to present artists that I have loved that I've never been able to present stateside, such as Carolina East, who I've seen in Newfoundland and Labrador twice, phenomenal artist who's kind of country folk. She's an Indigenous artist, but I've never, ever been able to get her stateside. And now that I was able to present her and had over 50 people on her live stream loving what she does, it's going to make it a lot easier for when I do want to bring her over.
And go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
I just wanted to jump in and ask, how do you think that sort of changed the business model, both for the festival and the Folksong Society, I was chatting with a friend of mine sort of a month into all of this, who works at a music school, and they go into other schools and do lessons and things like that. And she said, we just had a music lesson a week ago and 900 people attended. And I said, well, we talked about that, and we said, well, think about if you have a class and you've got 20 kids in there and they're each spending, let's say, $40 for an hour. I said, you put 900 people into a virtual classroom, and if on average they spend $1, you've made far more than you were before, especially if you factor in it, there's no overhead costs and all of that, or very, very little overhead costs. So how do you see that changing the sort of the business model? Not just, I'm sure you'll go back to live shows and all of that with the Folksong Society, but I'm sure you are looking at the sort of options that this brings you for additional streams for you.
That's a great question, Jake. Thank you. I genuinely think that this was the kick in the pants that the organization needed to enter the 21st century. And it's been the kick in the pants that a lot of nonprofits and a lot of music organizations and venues have needed. I don't think there ever would have crossed our minds to invest in the infrastructure of streaming when it came, 6 months ago, when we were thinking about doing things in our venue. From now on, when we are able to have our concerts that are live from our venue, we will be putting into the contracts an option for there to be a live stream, which we hope that artists will take the advantage of and be able to do. However, there's one thing that's been very interesting, and this is something that some artists might know of at a certain level or caliber, and a lot of presenters know about, and that's radius clauses. So with a radius clause, it's put into a lot of contracts that we say something along the lines of, hey, we don't want your audience being cannibalized by your audience, because if you're performing too soon in a given geographic sphere, it's probably going to not work out well for you, because there's going to be one show that's a little bit more populated than the other, or maybe people will split between the two rather than if we gave enough time, they might come to both because they love you so much. So as a result, with radius clauses, traditionally, we'll do something, for a local act saying, like, please don't play in Philadelphia within a week on either side. And for, a regional act, maybe 30 days for 30 miles. But there's certainly, when we work with some of those acts that are doing concerts with Live Nations, we get hit with, oh, well, you can't perform for 90 miles within 90 days. Well, the internet, you can't really do that, y'all. We can't really say, hey, don't perform online within a certain amount of time. That's a really tough ask. So right now, what we are doing is saying, if you are performing with us, we want to be able to maximize your audience that are both a mix of your audience and the people that love you as well as ours. Please, if we're doing something on a weekend, let's be the only stream a weekend. If we're doing something on a weekday, can we be your only stream that weekday? And most artists are happy to oblige. So when we move back to doing concerts in person at some point, and have the option for the live stream, we need to respect radius clauses, but we hope that a lot of artists will take advantage of it, because I'm having a lot of fun getting to see music from all over the world that I wouldn't get to otherwise.
Yeah, there really is sort of that amazing, scale balance that you have. That I think most of the people that I know, most of the music appreciators that I know, are going through. There's on one side the fact that if I log on to Facebook anytime between 6 and 10 p.m., really any night of the week, there are going to be 15 live shows that I scroll through. But on the flip side, the availability of music, that really amazing music that I would never have heard otherwise, is amazing. And I've discovered, partially through attending some of the Philadelphia Folksong Society shows. And I found
the point where he does the little dance that we promised.
I think there's an interesting there's an interesting conversation to be had, and I'd love to sort of know your take on it, specifically as it relates to how venues are dealing with this, not just artists, because artists have their own thing. Artists want to get in front of people and they'll always want to do that. But venues are sort of, at least what I'm seeing, is they're developing almost a different method of community building. And again, I'd sort of tap you and say, you've been doing this, so I'd love to hear your stance on it.
Sure.
Take.
I think that I have, as the executive director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society, have a really wonderful asset that not a lot of different kind of venues and organizations have, and that's a mailing list of 48,000, I believe, of emails. And so it's one of those things that when we put out a blast and we put our stamp on an artist that we believe in, then we're able to say, hey, we really want you to come and check this out. And quite often we'll get an audience of people who've never heard of someone before. And what we've done to ensure that that happens is that we've created a sliding scale model and let people know that 100% of that goes to the artists. So as a venue, what we're doing is we're showing that we are both customer friendly as well as artist friendly, in the sense that we want you as an artist to hear new music, to be exposed to the things that we would be showing you anyway, as well as giving the artists an opportunity to make money, because right now it's difficult. But circling back to your actual question, how do we as a venue, sort of make money and survive all this? So there are door deals where we get a percentage and the artist gets a percentage, and we've discussed potentially doing that with reference to these concerts. But what we've been doing so far is just simply saying, hey, 100% goes to the artists. We just would like for you to make a donation to us if possible. And I have a number of people that come to every show that we do who will just give an additional $1 donation to us, $5 donations to us, and those add up. We actually are, because there's no real overhead for us, we're definitely in a position where we are making money on our venue, which going into quarantine and going into COVID was a newer venue. We'd only been around for 2 years. We were supposed to have our 2-year anniversary celebration in April with Piper and Carson and Laura Cortese and the Dance Cards. 2 phenomenal acts, which if you do not know them, I highly recommend to everybody watching. And we were able on top of it. And we were able to do a concert with Piper and Carson to introduce them still to our audience, because they've never gotten to hear or meet them yet. Laura Cortese and the Dance Cards is a little harder because Laura's in Belgium. The Dance Cards are scattered throughout the Northeast. So we're looking forward to presenting them again. But it's one of those things where, as a venue, just saying, hey, we want the music to go to the artist, but if you can, please give a little to us. We've seen the generosity of our audiences, of our venue. And it's been really, really empowering to be able to keep saying to my board and to keep saying to our audiences, we're going to keep this model. We're going to keep moving forward so that we can ensure that artists are making money at this time.
I think what I find so interesting about sort of artists and venues as they approach this is it is the Wild West of discovering what monetization can and should be for everyone and how they should approach it. And you've got the ever popular cell phone on Facebook with a piece of paper and a Venmo name behind them, straight up to people using shows that you have to pay to get in. You pioneered a way of doing that. There are a couple different sort of systems out there. Jake and I are currently trying to see what we can do with sort of Twitch and YouTube as sort of the passive monetization methodologies. Yep. So I'm always interested to see how people are approaching that, and how successful it can be, because I think everyone's goal is the same, which is having a community of people that really want to listen, not just to you but to each other, and that's really been fun to see.
What I want to say is that I actually would love to just lay it out there that this is how we do it, because if there are any people that are listening that are either artists or venues, I would love for you to be able to take from this anything that you can to help in these times. But basically all that we've done, and again, we're doing the exact same thing we did for Mari Black back in March, because I had to figure it out over the course of one night, and it worked. And I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what we essentially do is we create a paywall. We looked at some of the different options that were out there, but more often than not, when you give a link to someone, that link can then wander throughout the internet. If you give a password to someone, unless that password is unique to that individual, it can wander throughout the internet. So what we decided is that one of the best methods to have a high encode stream is utilizing what's free and already out there, which is Facebook Live. But in order for us to use Facebook Live in a manner that has that paywall that we ensure that an artist is getting paid, what we do is we use what's known as a website called Woofoo, which is WUFOO, which is basically, it's fancy Google form, y'all. That's all it is. So we use this kind of form system that takes payments and say, hey, here's the artist, here's some information about them. Now we're going to suggest that you donate $15, but you can pay what you can. You can pay as little as $5, you can pay as much as $50, you can add more to it if you want. You can add more to it for the Philadelphia Folksong Society if you want. And what we've done is then given people that information, and it gives them a link to a private Facebook group. And then we have these private Facebook groups where people have to answer 2 questions. The first question is, are you already pre-registered? And we give the link in case they aren't. And then we ask them something completely random and nonsense just to prove it's not a bot. So that's our one little way of covering ourselves there. And then we let everybody in that's already paid. So they're in the show, ready to go. And if there are people who have found the link somehow, because we want it to be searchable, we want people to stumble upon it, we then, send them the message and the ability for them to register for the show. We just ask them, again, the $5 goes directly to the artist. So in doing so, we've been able to create this paywall where literally no one can get in. Now, we understand that Facebook you can access from multiple points. Somebody can be watching on their phone while someone's watching on a computer, et cetera, et cetera. However, when it comes to Facebook, there's geography in play. Because if somebody's too far away from where you're accessing it from another data point, it will create a flag, and then you'll have to go through authorization. I know this because we tried to create a Facebook dummy account for wonderful artists from Canada to go live from, or from the UK, or from wherever. And those accounts got shut down because they were trying to access it from other places. So we've been able to see when people have tried to access it from multiple places, it'll kick one out and the other person can't watch it at the same time. So this is just the one method that I've found that has 100% accuracy in making sure that people are only in and watching if they have paid to be in there to support this artist. The one thing that I have struggled with conveying is that we are going live at this specific time, say 7 p.m. on a Monday or 8 p.m. on a Saturday. However, what we've really wanted people to know is if you can't make it and watch this concert live, that's fine. That's the other cool thing about Facebook Live is it lives on in perpetuity. You can go back and watch it whenever. Most of these shows I'm not able to watch fully because I'm too busy literally working the door. I'm making sure that all of these people that don't sign up till the last minute or are registering right there are paid and ready to get in and communicating with them, letting somebody know their credit card was declined and letting somebody know that, yes, your wife bought a ticket, but if you're not watching with her, then you need to buy normal things you would do at the door of the venue. So it's been really interesting, but at the same time, it's been really rewarding because I've been able to write checks to artists and send PayPal payments to artists that have never performed for the Philadelphia Folksong Society audience before, that are hundreds of dollars US, which in Canada that's enough to retire off of. So, sorry, that's a conversion joke. Yay!
Yeah, it's a fair conversion joke though, with the way that they're dealing with COVID payments versus us. Maybe they're doing a little bit better. Whole different topic. We'll skip that one for the time being. But I really appreciate you sort of walking us through that. And I know for some of the folks that might seem like more information than they needed, but it goes to show just the complexity of we've had to do as performers and as presenters.
Thank you, Deli Tray. I don't know who, where's my Deli Tray? Just said he's not wrong.
Yeah.
For those of you in Radioland.
So I am going to just one last reminder for our Facebook folks. We're about to end the stream over there. Come join us on Twitch. It's really where our home is. We just sort of let you start watching over there. But
twitch.tv/tribal mischief.
I think the stream literally cut right after you got to Twitch. I'll work on the mechanics with that. I'll work on the mechanics. But so just not like one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, obviously, was what you've been doing with PFS, and I just think creating a really solid model that allows artists to continue having some semblance of the same model of a ticketed type of show. A couple other reasons I wanted to have you here. One is it's Pride Month still for like another day or two.
Again, for those of you in Radioland, over Justin's left shoulder, there is a Canadian flag, rainbow Canadian flag. How would you
that's my Canadian Pride flag that I got Canadian when I was up in Ontario.
There we go.
But you know, as Jake and I sort of discussed right at the beginning, part of what we're trying to do is get on voices that we can have conversations with that represent a view that perhaps the two of us don't just natively understand. And Pride Month, typically, as I understand it, has really been a month of getting people together and celebrating sort of the LGBTQ community as a whole. And if I say anything here that is incorrect or whatever, the one positive thing I will say about myself is you can absolutely correct me and I will never argue the point. But I know for a lot of my friends from that community, this has been a particularly hard month because those celebrations kind of felt part and parcel to being part of the community. So as a representative of that community, I think it's fair to say, how has it felt for you, and how have you tried to sort of bring that into this month?
So Pride is one of those just amazing amalgamous, ideas that really exists in different manners and different ways with different people. So I think that for a lot of people, when you hear the word Pride, it has a specific connotation, or, you immediately begin to picture kind of, the parade with the rainbows and the colors and the balloons and the half naked people.
I am still straight and Irish enough that U2 is the first thing that comes to my mind whenever I hear it. So it's a really
it's all good. 7 Deadly Sins, maybe.
Fair enough.
There's a lot of other things that can work for people, but with reference to Pride, this was certainly a very different year than it's been for this community in a lot of years past. I believe that with reference to, and I can only speak for it in Philadelphia, but there were certainly a lot of opportunities that were presented for our community to assist and to stand up for another community that has long been marginalized, way more so than ours. And that was definitely something that was highlighted as they organized in Philadelphia an incredible march last weekend to support Black trans lives in and around Philadelphia. But there have been a number of incredible marches and protests that have taken place throughout Philadelphia that have really been a sobering reminder of what Pride is that the first Pride was a riot. The first Pride was started with the Stonewall riots and Marsha P. Johnson throwing that brick in New York City and standing up for her brothers and sisters. And it's something that we have a very long history of peaceful and also aggressive and also passive aggressive demonstration. And I think that it was really time for us to stand up and get out and support our Black and brown brothers and sisters, and also non-binary, and everyone in between at this incredible moment in our history. While there may not have been a pride parade in Philadelphia this year, I think that the marches and protests that I was able to attend and the ones that I wasn't able to attend were some of the most significant pride celebrations that this city has ever had. And I believe that this was an opportunity for our community to come together in a really, really big way to show just the fact that we are in support of any and all marginalized communities that are out there. I've long said for years that because I identify as a gay Jew, that I have, some certain vantage points that allow me to just appreciate the significant experiences that others have, and my heart and my ears are always open to what those experiences are. But I'm still a cis white presenting man, cis being short for cisgender, which is somebody that presents with a binary gender of either male or female as what they're presenting as. So as such, I have many, many privileges that so many others don't. So it's definitely been an incredible month to be able to allow my voice to amplify others in a way that, frankly, I think a lot of us have long forgotten. So it's really, really been, honestly, an incredible Pride Month, and I wouldn't change a damn thing.
That's great to hear. From a sense of just sort of self-education, the entire notion of sort of intersectionality as it relates to all, sort of basically what you're talking about is not just being part of the LGBTQ community, which in and of itself is a whole slew of different sort of intersectionalities and identifications, but to then be able to see what's going on with the Black Lives Matter, with the Black community as a whole, and find sort of the spark of humanity and shared experience in the protest, in the fact that you can go and have not just empathy, but real sympathy from coming from one of these other places. I've some of the best conversations I've had this month really sort of hovered around that notion, and thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, and I think it's been especially important here in Philadelphia just because our LGBTQIA community has definitely struggled with a lot of institutionalized racism in the community. And in fact, before I came on to be a guest with you, I was at the Black, Queer, and Burlesque town hall that was happening in Philadelphia. And there were over 500 people on that stream as people that are part of the LGBTQIA performing community were coming out to talk about how they have felt marginalized over the years, even within our performance spaces. And in Philadelphia, in particular, we lost one of our trans sisters, Dominique Remy Fells, was found murdered this Pride Month, just a few weeks ago. They pulled her body out of the river. And it's just one of the many incredible voices that have been lost over time just because of so much institutionalized hatred and racism and transphobia, homophobia, biphobia, et cetera, that just lived on and lives on so fervently.
Yeah. I'm thankful. Sort of one of our fill-in members in Pesky J. Nixon was Mia Byrne, who, of course, and she played with us a number of times, and throughout her transition was a force of such loving education for a couple of white guys that, white cis hetero guys that, to be honest, I shouldn't speak for Jake, but I can speak for myself. Didn't understand. Didn't really have a clear understanding. And I'll be grateful sort of for her for sort of sharing that. But again, one of the parts of that conversation was realizing because I've always sort of thought our generation, and I think we're a little older than you, just not too much, so I don't want to get into that
few months
snapper thing. But yeah, but like I always thought like our generation, my generation, as sort of like the oldest millennial, latest Gen Xers, like our big thing was gay rights, because the people 10 years older than me, and obviously nothing is 100%, but the people 10 years older than me, I remember talking to about gay rights and as a teenager, which seemed at the time for the people I knew, and again, suburban, mostly white community, but just sort of seemed like a no-brainer. Like, why shouldn't you be allowed to get married? I went to a Catholic school, and that was more or less the general viewpoint of the majority of the people there. But it was very generational, where most of my cousins are 15 years older than me, and they're more or less in the same political spectrum, but it was a very different reality. So I always sort of thought of myself as being far along that particular level of understanding, or at least acceptance, and to be able to go through and develop an in-depth relationship with someone going through that part of transition. It was one of those moments where I think when you're a kid or when you're younger, you're like, oh, I'm at the forefront of this social justice thing. No one can, no one's more open-minded than me. And that was sort of the point where I realized I wasn't quite as open-minded as I thought I was, and needed to learn something. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Mia's going to see this or not, but if so, again, you have my eternal thanks for that. But anyway,
well, and it brings me to a question for you, Justin. So I'm Jewish, and I have a little bit of awareness of being an often persecuted minority. But it's interesting because we can hide. You can't just, I don't wear yarmulke all the time. I don't wear tzitzit. I used to, but I don't on any regular basis now. And so I can walk around and pass for not Jewish. Nobody's going to look at me and have that automatic reaction. And as you said, no one's going to immediately make assumptions about your the persecuted minority communities that you belong to, and so I'm curious about your thoughts in both of those, as you mentioned, Jewish, gay, about your thoughts being actively and honorably so being a part of these communities, visibly a part of these efforts, fighting for rights for people that are visibly part of persecuted minorities. I mean, you're in the Philadelphia area. There's been, got a lot of friends from there that have been dealing with a lot of late.
First, I do want to just give another shout out for the amazingness that is Mia Byrne. And anybody that's not already a fan, you can and should be. And it's MYA BYRNE. And I first came to know Mia as a member of Scott Wolfson and Other Heroes, another phenomenal act.
Another great band. Yeah.
They came and played, Scott Wolfson and Other Heroes came and played the Philadelphia Folk Festival. And I needed an artist to round out a workshop that was, women in music. And so I picked, Mia to join that, just because is an incredible woman in music. And I didn't know what effect that was going to have, and I just did it because it was having the incredible person that was the right person for that slot, but I apparently made a statement at that moment for some people, and I will fucking do it again, pardon my French. So I think it's one of those things that there's a lot of difficult conversations that people are having to have now because of Miss J.K. Rowling. And I just want to use this platform to say that trans women are women, and that is something that I think everyone needs to acknowledge. Now, to go back to Jake's question, there's a lot of interesting intersectionality that occurs when you are part of multiple, minorities. When, it's one of those things. I had a very good friend growing up, Joey. He was gay, Asian, and Jewish. And he always just was, I'm a triple minority, I win. But to that extent, it's something that with each different level of your person, with each different level of who you are, it definitely compounds your ability to really hone your identity. And sometimes you struggle to try to find one identity in and amongst the other. It's sometimes hard to find your gayness in Judaism. Sometimes it's hard to find your Judaism in your gayness. And I think it's one of those things that I have very much tried to go through my life. I don't go up to people and go, "Hi, my name's Gay and I'm Justin," but "Hi, my name's Jew and I'm Justin." But it's one of those
Can
things.
I get you a shirt that says one or both of those things, please? Please.
We'll work on that. But it's one of those things that I never, ever want to hide who I am, no matter how uncomfortable it makes other people. Because I believe that if you are made to feel uncomfortable by how somebody else is living their true life, then that means you're probably supposed to feel uncomfortable and get over and get past it. And it's a learning experience for you. So as such, when it comes to trying to find spaces where all of these different things can meet, you can, find your community. And I think that's some of what Tribal Mischief's mission is and why I was so excited to come onto this podcast. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things where it's important for us to all live authentically in our lives and everything that we do. Bringing it back to, working in folk music, it's one of those things that in the folk community, when I first started as executive director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society, and I started going out into the community and hearing and seeing artists, there was somebody that I had met another out gay man, and he said, in folk, there are lesbians as far as the eye can see, and then there's, us couple of gays. And it's one of those things where, they're not wrong, but at the same time, I believe very strongly that there are a lot of different queer voices that are definitely being heard louder in folk music than they are anywhere else. There's a lot of incredible lesbian artists and gay artists and trans artists and bi and queer artists that are really owning who they are and that are bringing those stories into music. And I think folk music is the most appropriate route for that. Folk music, and I don't know about you guys, but as somebody that runs a folk organization, I cannot tell you how many times people are like, "Well, what is folk music? What is folk music to you?" And I try to take, a little bit of an ethnomusicology standpoint, where folk music is storytelling. It's storytelling that, is telling of a particular time and place. But, I also try to acknowledge the fact that there's also a marriage and a divorce that occur within folk music. And that's, you've got this, it's the marriage of storytelling and musicality that are either coming together, or it's the divorce, where you have divorce of musicality and storytelling, and that you're actually getting your music in that manner as well. And I think that folk music is an umbrella term that covers so many different types of music, everything going from blues, bluegrass, singer-songwriters, hip-hop, spoken word, and music from all different nations and persons that are wanting to tell their stories.
You in particular, your organization in particular, sorry to cut you off, last year at the Philadelphia Folk Festival, and I believe Lisa Schwartz is the primary booker of that space. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that was about as much of a masterclass in my eyes of booking an event. The way that was put together, the diversity of music, and I mean that in the most wonderful of ways, from allowing the connection to the past, having Paula Cole as sort of a pop icon of sorts, but to also have an entire evening of just blow your mind New Orleans jazz. And I'm unfortunately not going to remember her name, but the wonderful sort of throat singer from New Zealand, was it? Just
Yep. Mama Mihirangi.
yeah,
Oh,
she was amazing. It just I appreciate, and you'll find anyone that has tuned into many of these will find that I tend to shower praise upon our guests only because the only people we have on are people that we really appreciate, and Justin, we appreciate you, and we appreciate what your organization is doing, and the sort of education that comes with it, because I don't know that I would have ever discovered her on my own natively had it not been for that. I felt weird enough that I didn't really know the Preservation Society or Hall.
Preservation Jazz Hall.
Yeah, Preservation Jazz Hall, and those guys have been on my constant playlist for pretty much a year now. But again, the way you guys approach that and present it is really, really wonderfully inclusive.
Well, thank you for that. I believe, when it comes to booking, and I've said this on a couple of different instances before, but I very much look at diversity of programming not as a checkbox. And you should never, as a programmer, look at something as a checkbox, because as soon as you do that, you're just going to consistently settle, and you're going to consistently sell yourself and your audiences short. And what I always try to ask other presenters to challenge themselves to do is to commit to presenting a certain type of voice, whether it is particularly from a region or a particular type of artist, a particular style of music, because that's how you're going to build that particular type of music with your audience. It's one of those things that's, at the very backbone of who and what we are, and frankly, what we're supposed to do. So in doing that, have often said that just, booking somebody once is tokenizing. When you are, and I'm laughing at somebody who just asked me to book Fire Saga from Iceland, which if you have not watched the Eurovision movie on Netflix, it is hilarious.
Gary, it's great to see you back. Gary's one of our regulars and has one of our favorite
I'm putting a pin in that because as a homosexual, I will happily talk about Eurovision for an hour. Love Eurovision. And some incredible folk artists from all over Europe, just saying, as well as some batshit crazy pop. But Eurovision, very entertaining. So getting back to it, booking, I always call it the 135. Where it's if you're just booking one particular type of artist, it's tokenizing. If you're booking three types of artists, it's appreciation. If you're booking five or more, it's representation. And my real goal in doing that is that I'm not saying 1 year you've got to have 5 different Gullah artists doing this music that people need to hear. But what I'm saying is over the course of 3 years, 5 years, commit to presenting a particular type of artist, a particular type of music to your audience. And the reason is because you're never going to know if that one-off worked or didn't work, unless you allow your audience to grow and to be exposed to these different types of artists.
Right. So Ethan and I book the lounge stage at Falcon Ridge, and if you stay tuned, we might just have a little announcement for you in the next few days. It's interesting that you talk about that. And for those of you watching on Twitch right now, if you see Ethan and I looking away, what we're doing is taking notes because Justin is presenting a masterclass in how to book, in how to run a festival. And so we are sitting at the feet of one of the people we consider a master in our world. And that, it's interesting that you say that about tokenism and all that, because it's one of those things that, as Ethan and I have said, we are 2 large, white, heterosexual men, and we are very, very painfully aware of this. And we know that we try. And so, it's interesting that you say that because we look at our lineups and we say, do we feel comfortable with the mix of people that we have? So yes, we want to find artists of color. We want to make sure that we are booking women. We want to make sure that we are booking artists from across the spectrum of gender and color and sexuality. And we're conscious, we're very awkwardly conscious about how we even feel about that we know that we're trying to make a difference, and we're trying to bring voices out that might need a platform, that might need a microphone here, and then we also just again feel awkward about the fact that we're even thinking about it, but we want to, because we think it's important that we're aware of it, so that we can present a broad spectrum of artists there. And we've gotten a lot of really good feedback over the 11 or so years that we book amazing artists, and I'm really proud of that. And I'm at least relieved that no one has ever looked at us and been, well, there's a lot of white dudes up there. But that's not to say that we shouldn't be careful. How do you approach that in terms of making sure that you are being, and and you've answered this a little bit, but making sure that you are being diverse in your booking without resorting to tokenism?
I think it's that commitment, saying that this is something I'm not just going to try once, is the key. I will never forget, as long as I am a professional in this wonderful, wonderful industry. If not, I run away screaming and I'm a professional in another industry, that there was somebody that we let know that they were not going to be playing the festival this year. And I want everyone to know that we actually do applications for artists to be able to play the festival. We do that because I cannot tell you how inundated my inbox is with, hi, we're with this incredible act and we really want to play your festival. I genuinely get over 100 of that email a week. And it's something that I love because I love being, what was that?
I said www.peskyjnixon.com.
Well, I love being,
for those of you who don't know that joke, so Ethan and I are in Pesky J. Nixon. We are very gracious, very grateful that we have played the Philly Folk Festival before. So that was a joke.
And they were great. That was before I even knew you guys. And all honesty, I will never forget when you played the Philadelphia Folk Festival. One of my interns had put you down as their #1 must-see act of the Philadelphia Folk Festival in the PFS newsletter, because they played your cover of, I believe it was Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It was
more plays on Spotify than anything.
It was our #1. We have a Spotify account for the society for that year. It was like, here are your #1 played songs for the year. It was like, #1, Pesky J. Nixon, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And I was just like, thanks, intern. But also, it was a damn good cover. And also, your duck records were damn good in and of themselves. But
Thank you.
that's besides the point. To go back to answering your question about representation and tokenism, I think it's one of those things that you also have to acknowledge that, a lot of artists of color, a lot of queer artists, a lot of artists that are coming from other parts of this world to come into the spaces that we present in are a little exhausted, and they're a little tired of the microaggressions and having to stand up for themselves. They're tired of being an artist of color looking out at an all-white audience. They're tired of being women that are going into venues that are having sound engineers that are male and that are dismissive. They're tired of being artists that are queer, that are being misgendered, that are being forced to, answer questions about where their husband or wife are if they were a cisgendered person. There's lots and lots and lots of what we know as microaggressions that are out there that come from, more often than not, ignorance, just flat out ignorance. And as I'm talking to two phenomenal men who happen to be, white cisgendered guys, you have a self-awareness that I believe so many of your peers unfortunately lack when it comes to presenting. It's just a matter of, right now, in the world. I think everybody's a little bit tired, but let's just take a moment to acknowledge that, the people of color in this world are in this music, genre that we all find ourselves in are even more so. And I want to share real quick a conversation that I had with an amazing, amazing young artist named Kaya Cater, who I've been able to have at the Philadelphia Folk Festival twice. She's come and play my venue as well. She's also stayed at my house before, and that girl can house a cheesesteak, let me tell you. But Kaya and I had a phenomenal conversation because we were opening up our first venue. The Philadelphia Folksong Society existed for 60 years and had never had our own venue. And we were just doing a pop-up for a couple of months. And the first artist that we were opening with was Layla McCullough, who's a phenomenal singer, songwriter, cellist, and artist that a number of people were first exposed to as part of the Carolina Chocolate Drops alongside Rhiannon Giddens. And I was having a conversation just saying how I was so excited that, Layla was going to be opening up our venue. And, Kaya was talking to me and just saying, well, folk spaces are white spaces. And, being a person of color going into folk spaces, you expect to see that mostly, white audience that's out there. And as such, that really, really resonated with me. And even though this was our first concert, I held back 24 tickets, much to my board's anger, because I wanted to make sure that some of the youth that we work with in the region through our music education program and their families could come and see an incredible artist that, may look like them, that may sound like them up on a stage, probably for the first time. And holding back 20 tickets to allow this experience was something that was just an executive decision that I made, and something that I think really added not only to that evening, but shaped my viewpoint and my vantage for future evenings, because I really want to make sure that my audience is as diverse as the rosters and of the schedules that I'm presenting. And that's something that I certainly know a lot of folk spaces struggle.
Yeah, and I think that's there is a false assumption that I know a lot of bookers run into. And the reason I'm looking down is there was a fantastic book that was originally recommended to me by Kaya Cater's mother, Tamara, who is a good friend of ours, that was really more or less about that notion of making spaces inviting, not just allowing more diversity, but inviting more diversity. And there's it might sound like you're just arguing nomenclature, but what pretty much every venue has found is inviting people is one thing, accommodating them is another. And if you're truly looking to open the doors wider, make the tent flaps, well, I can't remember what Jake said earlier, but there needs to be not just, oh sure, would love to see some Black people in here. It has to be far more pervasive culturally. And one of the great organizations that I know, I introduced you to Catherine Morris, who runs the Arts, Music, and Soul. And one of my sort of sad moments this weekend is their festival was supposed to be Saturday. So I woke up with my phone sort of doing go down to Hyde Park to see a lot of really, really great music that unfortunately didn't happen because all this stuff. But that's one of those fantastic organizations out there that just does such a great job. Like I think they basically said, fuck it, we don't need doors, and they just blew an extra hole. Because what I've seen them do, I have seen them host 180-person shows in like the back room of a 200-year-old movie theater, like I didn't even know existed, and they had an audience every color of the rainbow, every background represented, culturally speaking, from sort of the Black, Latino, white, really across the board, LGBTQ, 16 to 80-year-old, and they had a couple state reps there as well. So it's just like what they do, to me, they are not really what I would consider to be part of what the main folk community is, but they are a spectacular lesson for us in the folk community to be looking at, and certainly you guys as well. Sorry,
No, you're fine. I appreciate you introducing me to Catherine. I just felt madly in professional and human love with that woman after just being on one panel with her. I mean, I love who she is. I love what she stands for. I love how her mind works.
And beyond that, like, I mean this in like, I hope it comes off as genuine as I mean it, but she is a literal queen. She is 6.5 feet tall with an afro that she has the power of presence that every time I am around her, I am in awe. I just think she is such a sterling human being.
100%.
So anyway, sorry.
No, just saying I 110% agree.
Yeah. So since I brought up their festival, I feel like it's only fair to transition and talk about your festival.
Hey, so I am the executive director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society, as I've mentioned 13 times already. But I haven't yet said my normal, subtitle, which is presenters of the oldest continuously run outdoor music festival in North America, the Philadelphia Folk Festival. And the Philadelphia Folk Festival is something that holds a very, very special place in my heart, not just professionally, but personally. I grew up going to the Philadelphia Folk Festival. My first Philadelphia Folk Festival, I was 4 months old. And I have been to every single festival my entire life. And my parents actually met at the Philadelphia Folk Festival. So if it wasn't for that event and this organization, I literally wouldn't be here. And I think it was that, cheeky aw shucks that really got to the incredible consultant that was doing the hiring for the new executive director back in 2015. Because I just really sold myself as this is something that means everything to me, and I want to make sure that it's here for the next generation, future generations. This
is gonna sound like a cheeky question, but I mean it in some ways to actually praise you. At what point, given that you started going when you were 4 months old, at what point in your aging will you no longer represent someone that brings the average age down?
Well, I am actually happy to say that in the last couple of years, we have seen our average age go down. In our in the Philadelphia Folk Festival, we always do a survey to our audiences, and we put since I started on all of our ticketing, we asked for your birthday. It's not a required question, but we just put it on there, and we ask people to just answer it honestly, because for us, it's really important to monitor and to make sure that we are able to create an event that the next generation of music lovers will want to go to. I mean, this is something that I grew up attending, and I have just an untoward, unconventional love for this event. So I want to make sure that that is continuing, that we have that cycle. We have 4 generations of families that attend this event every year of their lives, and it's something that's incredibly important. But at the same time, the realization that because our audience is getting a little bit younger over the last 5 years, it's also something that our audience is at an age where not all of them can attend the event. For those of you that have never been to the Philadelphia Folk Festival, those are some steep hills. It is not the easiest place to navigate. I know my friend Nicole is watching right now, and Nicole came to the Philadelphia Folk Festival in heels, bless her heart, And I love her for coming out, because she definitely said that, camping and all of that wasn't her thing, but she came to support me. And I definitely was impressed by how much she navigated it, but also it's something that, even if you're out in heels, that's difficult. And so we really want to make sure that this is something that is accessible. Accessibility is so important, which is why we decided to make the Philadelphia Folk Festival a digital experience this year. The 59th annual Philadelphia Folk Festival is going to be a fully interactive online digital music experience. We partnered with an incredible group of tech wizards called Mountain View Staging. They have offices in San Francisco, in Salt Lake City, and in kind of the DC, Metro, Baltimore region as well. And it just so happened that one of their program managers had been to the Philadelphia Folk Festival before, was aware of us, and had moved from the San Francisco office to the East Coast office. So it was just a perfect storm when we were looking for people to help us execute this. They're a group that has 20 years of streaming excellence under their belts. They do a number of conferences where they have to have the conference not only be in person, but make it accessible to people all over the world. They've done some incredible work with different events, live events as well. And so this is, and live sporting events as well. So, for us to be working with these heavy hitters has just been such an incredible speaking to who and what we are and who and what we mean to people. I mean, I believe that the last time that the member of Mountain View Staging was at the festival was nearly 10 years ago, but we resonated so much with this individual that they wanted to, help out when we were in this time of need. So we've been working on it since March. We launched our website, folkfest.org, which is going to be the home for the festival. And then in just a couple short weeks in July, we will fully launch the website for people to poke around in and explore, because it is, again, a fully interactive virtual experience. So if you have been to the Philadelphia Folk Festival before, it's going to have multiple stages, similar to what we see there. So you'll be able to click on one of the stages and go to visit that stream and see whatever artist is live on that stage. It's going to have a merch tent where you're going to be able to purchase merchandise, not just from the Philadelphia Folk Festival this year, which we have incredible brand new things that are being printed by Highline Merchandising in Pennsylvania, which have already been delivered to Fest fans. They have their hoodies and their face masks and their t-shirts and their sweatpants that say Fest in Place on them. And you'll be able to go to our craft area and visit some of the crafters that we have had with us for years and years and years to still support them. We'll be able to have a food area where you'll be able to support some of our food vendors that have brick and mortar spaces to have food either delivered or be made available for pickup, such as our delicious Yards Brewing Company or our friends at CB Delight. I'm always good for a plug, you guys. So, which I opened up with my Martin Guitar Company bottle opener. Boom. But it's one of those.
We need to send Justin merch.
Where's that? Yeah.
We need to send Justin our merch.
So our campgrounds are going to definitely be one of the most unique aspects because, as anyone that's been will tell you, our campgrounds are rather unique. We have a way to throw out the logo.
That's one word for them, Justin.
What was that?
I said that's one word for them.
Yeah, unique. The camp life and the campground life is definitely something that is integral to the event. It's a part of our community and who we are. So we want to try to connect people more than ever. So we are going to have Zoom campsites where people are going to be able to hang out while they're watching the concert and well late into the night, be able to, have jams, be able to drink together like we're all doing now. Social. Clink.
Oh.
Boop. There we go. And be able to enjoy each other's company because I think we're all feeling a little more lonely and isolated these days. So we wanted to give people something to look forward to. I always feel a lot of weight on my shoulders when it comes to this event because I grew up going to it. But because there were so many of the founders of the event that just became family to me over the years, Ed and Esther Halpern, Jeanette Yanks, and of course Jean Shea, who we just lost this year, are all people who have acted as surrogate grandparents to me throughout my life and just become friends as I got older and colleagues. And it's just people that I value so, so much. And I just consistently think about the fact that this event was built on their backs, on their shoulders, on their hard work, and that of so many others and so many volunteers that I had to do something. Canceling was never an option for me, honestly. So putting together this digital event is something that was difficult to execute. But now that we have the right partners, it's something that we're going to do from here on out. In the future, if you guys don't want to come down from Massachusetts, you'll be able to subscribe to the stream and be able to watch it. The other thing is our festival, Ethan and Jake, you both have praised the booking. We have 8 stages that are going. You cannot be in 2 places at once, but with the digital event, you'll be able to watch the performances that you missed on demand for a set period of time after the event so that you don't miss any music. And that, for me, is the key. As somebody that's going to be at the event, I'm going to buy that every year so I can go back and rewatch my favorite performances. Or when someone said, oh my God, you missed Mama Mihirangi, who is this incredible New Zealand singer that Ethan's telling me about, I can go back and try to figure out how to spell Mama Mihirangi and look it up.
Mihirangi for those of you in Radio Land.
So it's one of those things that I'm excited for the future of this event, of this organization, of this community.
Really been one of those moments. This has really been one of those sort of defining moments where it has made festivals and artistic organizations sort of step up. There might be some accents in there, Ethan, that I don't know how to find on the keyboard. We have Mama Mihirangi on our live stream right now. For those of you who don't know, we will be reposting this to YouTube in short order and also on your favorite podcasting network. So that's why we give the shout outs for the visuals that do not translate. No, it really has been, I think, a defining moment where these organizations, the forward-thinking organizations, when Ethan told me that you were going to go all virtual, I was like, well, this I got to see. And it was not in a dismissive way at all. It was... Ethan and I are both tech nerds. I'm a chief technology officer of an IT services company by day. And so when he told me what was going to happen, I was like, man, I'm very curious to see how this turns out, because that is such a huge undertaking. And on the one hand, that's something that no one has ever done before. No one has ever done anything like that, as far as I'm aware. And the technical hurdles there are just insane to me. But at the same time, we both know you. The 3 of us have been friends for a long time. And when Ethan tells me that Justin's going to do something, I fucking believe that Justin's going to do something. So me saying, man, this I got to see, is not dismissive by any stretch. It is legitimately that weekend I know what I'm going to be doing, or at the very least, going forward from there, I'm going to be able to go back and look and see the things that you guys have done. And we're really looking forward to seeing that.
And not to pivot away from this specific topic, but to rather use it for opening a broader conversation. You mentioned it earlier. Our community as a whole, your organization, which is a microcosm of the greater community, has needed sort of a technological kick in the pants for a while. And this very unfortunate, awful pandemic has become that for a number of people. I'm interested, like the futurist, the technology driven person in me, I'm interested in seeing what the post-COVID world looks like. What is the happy marriage of these 2 existences that are going to occur? Because I can't imagine if the Philly Folk Fest goes off the way I believe it can, given what we've discussed here, I can't imagine you'd stop streaming it.
Right.
And all of a sudden now you're opening, you guys average, was it 25,000 people?
The festival, anywhere from 25 to 50,000, depending on the weather and the year, which the weather's no longer an obstacle. You can watch it from home. So, I mean, this is the future. Like, this is what I'm so excited about. I mean,
Right.
We had, I believe it was 2 years ago, we had our head kicked in. I'm up there for 10 days straight through. I'm there for an entire week before the festival. I'm there for the entirety of the festival. I'm there for a day or two after. And I'm living in a tent, the same as everybody else. And it rained for all 10 of those days. And that was tough. And that was tough on me as a 30-something. I cannot imagine how difficult that was for our audience that is of so many different ages and abilities. Yep. For us to now say, oh, sorry.
No, and I think that's a really great point, and I'm just going to use it to take a step back. My comment earlier was more of an in-joke between the two of us, and the knowledge that the average age of the folk viewing community has the birth date of the average age has not changed for a very long time. And that has been one of the primary challenge focuses of the community, probably for as long as I've been part of it, which is well over 25 years. I remember being a 13-year-old and I was the novelty kid, and I was still being called a kid until 4 years ago. And that was when I was 36. So like there's an interesting particular thing that goes on in our community, and it's just worth acknowledging. It's not a negative or positive to any particular generation. It's just the challenge that you have if you have that that massive base of your community in one particular age range. Really doesn't even matter which. But
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, don't apologize. I completely agree. I mean, you're talking to somebody that is the whippersnapper. I mean, I'm still in my 30s, and it's something that, while I'm seeing there are absolutely incredible and phenomenal artists and people in our community that are on their way up, that are in their teens and 20s, I feel pretty strongly I'm going to be, that kid until I'm probably in my mid-40s, just because of who I am and how I am. So it's something that I feel a bit of imposter syndrome at times, where I really need to prove, who I am and what I do. And I think that might be why, frankly, I bite off more than I can chew more often than not, but I always try to schedule everything appropriately. I mean, you were talking about how your phone was notifying you for this incredible event that I wish that we all could have attended this weekend. Well, my phone, hourly I have, oh, you need to send this, you need to do this, revisit this email. That's how I function. And so, I have to say, as somebody that is younger in this community, I feel that there is a need for me to elevate some of the voices that are younger than mine, without isolating and extinguishing the voices that are older. I always want to make sure that my ears and my heart are open.
That brings us, a really interesting point to what you were saying earlier, Justin. I want to bring in a question that Chef Spam asked on Twitch. Battery exhausted. That's no good. The question said, interesting to think about how looking out on an audience in new virtual venues might not necessarily have visual cues to which artists are accustomed. When it's no longer faces and instead it's a list of usernames, it could potentially level the playing field to a self-chosen set of consonants and vowels. So I think, what she's saying here is that this is sort of, leveling the playing field. We were talking earlier about, artists of color that are coming in and playing to a sea of white faces. And I think it also applies to ages as well. It's sort of an interesting... Ethan's back, hooray! I think it's interesting what this, technological shift, or, sort of this new direction is going to do for festivals and for venues and for organizations, both from a color perspective and an age perspective. You mentioned earlier how your audience is skewing younger, and that is an argument that Ethan and I have had for hours in the car. Um, and so, do you have comments or thoughts on how the virtual venues, the virtual festivals, um, are sort of shifting that? Both the age
Yeah,
and the color.
I think that there's a real genuine fear that we're going to lose that sense of community. I think that's what so many people, especially people who have been in this community for decades, that are of a certain age, that feel that that sense of community is one of the greatest parts about being either a folk artist or a folk presenter or a member of a folk audience. But I think that we're presenting and providing a new opportunity. I know for a fact that if I were in a concert and I were watching it and people were talking, they would be getting this look a lot. You don't you don't do it. You're not supposed to be talking during a show. We're supposed to be allowing the phenomenal words of the artist in front of us to just marinate our brains. But
Right.
we're now presenting an opportunity where you're not just able to communicate both during a performance and in between the sets with the artist, because when you're that person in the first row, communicating with an artist, everyone else in the audience hates you. However, now with the ability to communicate while someone is live, both with the people that you're watching as well as with the artists themselves, you're able in real time to convey how something's making you feel. Ask that follow-up question about that song that you will have forgotten by the end of the concert. You're able to connect with this person who's living in Newfoundland and loving the same artist as you are, who's telling you, oh, if you love so-and-so, you've got to check out such and such. And you're exposing yourselves to so many different types of people and tastes. And yes, we have the little itty bitty profile picture that kind of alludes to who it is that's on the other side of this.
Right.
At the same time, we are definitely putting ourselves in an opportunity where we are greatly equalizing who is in that audience, who is communicating, and giving everyone the opportunity and voice to do so. I think it's really, really monumental. I think it's a step in a new direction. And some artists are really, really keen on it. They love it. And some artists have a hard time with it because, they're in their performance and they have to stop to pause and interact with the audience. I had Shauna Caspi do a live stream with us last Monday, who is a phenomenal Canadian artist. I love her songwriting. I love how her brain works. And I loved being in an audience of people that were seeing her for the first time with huge Shauna fans and having people in the audience say, oh my God, it's, you love this one, just wait till she plays this song. And Shauna was going, oh, I wasn't going to play that song, but okay. And then she was able to really have her set unfold as a choose your own adventure, which when you have an artist who's up for that, it's so much fun. So, 3 cheers to Shauna Caspi and the other artists who are really leaning into this. And Shauna was also an artist who I will say was a little nervous about going live because she doesn't have a lot of technology. She was just using her phone, but taking the time to do a sound check, which we do for every live stream that we do, both with the festival and with Facebook Live. We have a secret sound check group that we have people go live in, make sure everything's good to go. And, even then we still have some issues. Christine Lavin, when she went live, she was able to do it in the one, she wasn't able to do it in the other. And then the phone died in the middle of her show. And then she had to go live again. And then I think she went live sideways. And it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, all I want to do is go to New York and give you a huge hug right now because you're my favorite person. But hugs are illegal right now.
And that's what been a really interesting thing, to watch artists. On this podcast, you'll hear us refer to our previous guests, and the reason for that is not just, hey, you should go listen to episode 1 with Adam Ezra, but it's because these people, and Justin yourself included, really represent a lot of really high points in our community, and really interesting perspectives. Adam has done 108 live concerts now. He's done one every night since like March 12th or March 13th. And he thrives on that 600 to 700 people in his live stream every night. He's getting tens of thousands of rewatch views of those streams. And he's really into it. He's really capitalized in it. He's done fantastic things. And then there are other artists who, Will Daly, for example, is a national artist. He was on, he had a major record deal a bunch of years ago. He's a buddy of ours. And I watched sort of a testy stream of his on Facebook, and he was like, man, I don't know what to do right now. He's like, I'm playing songs. Nobody's clapping. He's like, and he was having a real hard time. And this is not a knock on Will. He's an amazing performer, an amazing musician. But it's just, what we've seen also is this struggle with how do you interact? It's changing everything for everyone.
Yeah.
And so it's been interesting to see, as you said, with, Shauna doing the tests and whatever it is, to see Adam, who's thriving in this community, and then to see Will, who's played in front of, I think he played Farm Aid in front of who knows how many tens of thousands of people.
Truly.
And then but then you're on a stream and you can't hear anybody clap. And artists who are so used to having at least a room of live people, it's a really hard transition, and it's been really interesting to watch as people have been adapting to it.
I will say that it's interesting for me because before I was a director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society, I was a director at the Philadelphia Film Society and the Philadelphia Film Festival. And it's so interesting to me because I've told people and I love film. It's a huge passion of mine. I still, even in quarantine, have been trying to watch a bajillion movies while I'm working. But at the same time, film for me versus music, film is super passive. It's one of those things that when you're dealing with an artist or a director or someone that is coming to a festival and viewing their film with an audience, they're doing so with a huge, bit of hindsight, with a huge vantage point on what it is that they've done and achieved. And so they already have a lot of preconceived notions about, what they want from an audience or this, that, or the other thing. Music, it's in the moment. It is so instantaneous. It's something that people really get that immediate result and reward from. And I believe it's interesting because we've just taken that away from people. So how on earth are artists being able to thrive in this environment? Well, I believe it's genuinely when you take the ability for people to communicate with you before. Oh, no, you did not put my IMDb page on there. Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, I used to work in cartoons and I played a queer person on Dispatches from Elsewhere, available now on AMC. But other than that, I believe, with music, it's getting to interact with your audience. You're going to have to do it through your stream, through the comment section, as well as make yourself accessible before, during, and after the show. What I have really seen from artists that has been really heartening as the person that runs these groups where the shows are going live is I'm then seeing the artists go back, rewatch their show, or at least go through the comments to see who said what when, and are beginning to answer what people were asking or love or like what people said after the fact. They're really, really taking the opportunity to see what worked and what didn't work. And I think that that's something that people are going to have to continuously do to craft this new set of skills that artists are going to need for their toolbox.
So what are you most looking forward to? Like when as we've gone through this last 3 months, what have
He's
been
a hugger. We're all looking forward to
well, no, I don't mean the post-COVID. I mean more as you're seeing artists start to adapt, what is standing out to you as far as the people that have really developed a knack for creating and empowering community through this medium, as opposed to the handshakey kind. Like, what are you? Because I've gotten a real kick out of watching a lot of your shows, and I've watched a lot of them now. And there are people that I assumed would be really good at this virtual presentation thing that aren't really good at this virtual presentation thing. And there are other people, and I'll out them because I'm outing myself for not believing in him, and that was bad on my part. But Ken Tizard, who you had on last week, did a brilliant job.
Yeah,
he was a fantastic stream.
Yeah.
So, what are you seeing there that really is, in your mind, the differentiating factor aside from an Ethernet connection?
Well, there's a phenomenal artist who I won't name just in case she's going to be pissed at me later because I love her. She's in another country, not Canada. But I've been like, hey, we really, 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 really want to do a live stream with you. And she's like, look, I perform with a band. And while I can perform, while I can pick up my guitar and I can do my own thing, I don't know if what I want people to take away from me this year is me looking like a digital thumb, on somebody's iPhone. And I love the phrase digital thumb, and I will continue to use it for here on out.
Well done.
But it's one of those things that, I think some people are leaning into it and some people aren't. We had a lot of the Philadelphia Folk Festival already booked for this year, and we went to every artist and said, would you like to continue with us on the live stream? This, that, and the other thing for a lot of these artists that were at a certain tier. And a lot of them said, not for me. No, thank you. I can't do this. I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to do it without this, that, or the other thing. And that's something that I respect. I respect that self-awareness. But at the same time, I need to tell every artist that is, up and coming, that's breaking out, that's, trying to do the hustle, that's trying to get themselves out there. The number of people that were like, well, why would I go live? We've got Sean Colvin going live every week. Why are people going to watch me when they could watch Sean Colvin? Or why are people going to watch me when you've got Garth Brooks? And why are people going to watch me? And the reason is that people right now are looking for something to connect. And if there is something else that can connect us all more than the universal language of music, please let me know what it is, because I have found nothing else in quarantine that has gotten me through more than being able to hear people's songs, people's stories, and who people are. Because as Jake pointed out, yes, I'm a hugger. I love connecting with people, but being able to do so digitally, virtually, in this manner, and being able to feel who they are through their music has just been some of the most incredible and special experiences. There are artists that I had an appreciation for before all of this, but now after presenting them or going to their live stream or communicating with them before, during, and after their show, they mean the world to me. I absolutely love them. And so I'm really, really excited to continue to present people digitally as well as in person. As we said at the start of this, there's going to be an opportunity to present people from all over the world now in a new way.
There's another thing I owe you thanks for is one of my favorite artists that you introduced me to personally last year. Is your late night specialist, Miss Shirley Noam.
Shirley Noam.
I was happy to see that was your birthday show, right? You had her.
That was my birthday show. Yeah. So I was born on April 1st. So my entire life is a joke. It's one of those things that when people hear it, they never forget it. So I feel, again, very birthday privileged, that I feel as if I get more happy birthdays on my birthday than most people that I know. And it's just because it's one of those things that sticks with you. But I could think of nothing else that I'd rather do on my birthday than to present one of the most ridiculous singer-songwriters that I've had the opportunity to come across in a number of years. And she is a ridiculously talented, witty, and just special. And I mean that in both the delightful and short bus sort of ways. Human beings that are on the face of this planet, the fact that she resides in British Columbia, and that I was able to present her, on a Wednesday night, with some. Her website is also a trip. It's like a GeoCities from 1997 that's not been updated. It's but everything with her is very, very calculated. She is absolutely brilliant. And yes, I was able to present her for my birthday. And also I was able to show her, hey, if you go live a few less times and you put it behind a paywall, you can make money off of this. And it's something that I'm so excited to say that she's been going live, I believe, on the 1st of every month, no matter what day of the week it is. So shout out to July 1st if you want to see Shirley. But she's done a couple of other things. She did a choose your own adventure that she did with her audience, where she literally wrote a choose your own adventure saga for herself, and then asked the audience to vote what to do. Constantly either resulted in a song, resulted in someone getting killed, resulted in some sexy times. I mean, she's brilliant. She's finding ways to connect with people, and she's somebody that I cannot recommend enough.
What I love here is that Jake has not yet experienced. He has not had the Shirley experience yet. So
No.
we'll see if we can make
it out on July 1st. It's funny. One of you was saying this earlier, but sort of earlier on in the pandemic, somebody was like, yeah, this is no different than the real world, because I'm playing a show live on Facebook and the Indigo Girls are playing a show just down the street. And so nobody's coming to my show, because there was that one night when the Indigo Girls got together and played a live stream. But I have to say, one really cool thing that I've gotten to see is Glenn Phillips from Toad the Wet Sprocket is doing like a weekly live stream. And there's not an insane number of people on this stream. Sadler Vaden, who is Jason Isbell's guitarist, and Sadler is just one of the fucking deadliest guitarists out there.
Tremendous.
I was watching Sadler, and I watch Adam Azera most nights, and as I said, Adam's got a few hundred people every night, and I'm watching Sadler Vaden with 70 people, and there was this feeling of like being. On the one hand, I felt bad a little bit, but on the other hand, there was this feeling of like being in a small club. There's this exclusive group. It's only a few dozen people that are watching Sadler just melt shit. And it's been really cool to see a lot of these different artists. And look, we are about promoting the artists in our world, and Sadler does not need a larger stage. But it's been really cool to sort of see these artists. Jonathan Brooke's been doing a phenomenal. I think it's a weekly stream, and it's been really cool to see these very intimate. You're not going to see a lot of these artists in an intimate club anymore, and it's been really cool to see these artists in these spaces where I can just we can tweet at them or whatever in the regular world, but like Glenn Phillips is sitting in his living room and he's playing a song that I listened to when I was in college, and you can send messages and be like, hey, play this tune, and they're responding to him, and it's just really cool to see.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ethan. Nobody needs to see, Glenn Phillips, Toad the Wet Sprocket link.
I mean, I will say I did tune in for it's so funny. Facebook, I don't know if they're doing it for you too. They're having this new, like, would you like to follow these celebrities? And it's like, it's kind of like people you may know of celebrities. And it was just at the top of mind the other day was, would you like to follow Toad the Wet Sprocket? And I'm like, I would. What are they up to? And then I saw that Glenn was doing a live stream. So I watched part of Glenn's last live stream within the last 2 weeks.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're great. As a little note, Pesky J. Nixon was born at a Glenn Phillips concert, if I'm not mistaken, Ethan. Isn't that right? Wasn't that who we went
believe
to
so.
see?
Yeah,
Glenn
the Iron Horse
in Northampton,
Massachusetts.
Ethan and Dan Karp and I went out there. Ethan and Dan had not met, and we drove 2.5 stupid hours out to Northampton, Massachusetts to see Glenn Phillips. And I'm not going to remember right now who opened for him, but
Peter Bradley Adams.
Thank you. There it is. I knew 3 names. Peter Bradley Adams opened for Glenn Phillips, and that was how Pesky J. Nixon was born, and that's how we played for. That's how Pesky J. Nixon ultimately came to play for Philly Folksong Society, and so Glenn Phillips is really the reason that we're all sitting here right now.
Thanks, Frank.
Justin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. I know how busy you are, and it means a lot to have your perspective and to be able to have these conversations. And I'm so excited to see the Philly Folk Festival this year. I am so very excited to see what you guys are up to, and I can't. I'll just reiterate how much I appreciate what you're doing for artists, and I know some of the paydays that you've allowed artists like Mari Black to get in this period where no one is getting those kinds of paydays. It is, you are paying people's rent, you are putting food on people's plates. Thank you for all you do. And I don't know if you want to share any of sort of your personal stuff, but you've been going through your own set of challenges through this, and not trying to push you in there, but as a friend who's seen you go through that, man, the juggling is real, and it is appreciated.
Well, so Ethan's alluding to the fact that my partner, David, who is absolutely phenomenal and is right through the ceiling, David is an infectious disease doc, which it's an interesting time to have that profession. So there's been a very long, period of time where, he goes to work, and I have to hope that he gets to come home because the hospital is currently at, stage what have you, where you have to ask permission from your supervisor to even leave the hospital. There have been, a number of people that are around him professionally who have contracted COVID. So I am somebody that I have very specifically chosen to stay home as much as humanly possible, because I would hate for him to bring it home and then for me to have to, go out into the world and bring, the disease with me. It was something that really weighed heavily to me when I was going to protest for Black Lives Matter, because I don't want to be somebody that, has insurance, that has, the privilege and ability to take care of myself if this disease were to occur, to people who might not have that luxury. So just making sure that I am fully masked up, that I'm, still keeping social distance even in an event such as that. And it's something that has definitely been challenging because, as Jake has lovingly pointed out, I am a hugger. So it's but it's just been challenge, being home perpetually. This is strange. I'm normally, doing 30 different things and have a full schedule. So it's been very sobering, but I will say somehow I am working more than ever before. When you work from home, you never leave the office. So that's been super interesting. I have not had a full day off since March 8th. So I'm looking forward to the 4th of July weekend, where I'm closing the digital office, and I'm just probably going to still sit at home, but going to sit at home not working. So really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to this Tuesday, the 30th, when we are going to announce some of the first lineup persons for the Philadelphia Folk Festival this year. We are not done yet. And in fact, if you are one of the many amazing artists that applied to play the Philadelphia Folk Festival, there is a follow-up questionnaire that has gone out to some and is going out to everybody that specifically asks what your comfortability is with live streaming, because we want some of these incredible local and regional artists to still be a part of this performance, even though we got some amazing talent that sells out stadiums that never would have played this festival in a million years, that are coming and playing because it's, a little easier now and they don't have anything else to do. So it's one of those things that I'm really excited for, the number of phenomenal artists that we are introducing. I will happily share one, and this is a Tribal Mischief exclusive, that one of the acts that we are going to be presenting at the Philadelphia Folk Festival is Episode 2's Gangsta Grass. We are going to be presenting as part of the Philadelphia Folk Festival this year. So, but stay tuned for Tuesday. We're going to be announcing the first chunk of that lineup with more artists to come thereafter. The festival is available as a pay what you can, starting at just $25 a day. After we announce the lineup, we will then put into place the day ticket. Right now, it's just, for the entire weekend, because we want to encourage people to come out and support and be a part of everything as of right now. But we're just so incredibly excited to give people this opportunity. Shout out to Graham Lindsay, a wonderful friend of the pod, who made a great video for us that we premiered this Friday. So if you have never been to the festival before, go check out Graham's work on our page, Philadelphia Folk Festival or Philadelphia Folksong Society. And you can see the video there for yourself and get a little taste of what's in store for you. But I will promise it's going to be great music with really high quality streams that you're going to be able to watch again and again. And we also have recorded 58 years of the festival before this one. And we are going to have available, if you sign up in advance, have on-demand streaming of previous year festival concerts that artists have signed off on the rights to y'all being able to see. No, I love shirleygnome.com too, but folkfest.org is where you can sign up. And make sure you do it in the next, I think, week or two so that you can get the program book. We're still doing one. We're just mailing it right to people's homes so that you can enjoy kind of that full festival experience.
For those of you listening at home, Jake just signed up for a weekend pass. So supporting our Folk Fest fans. So again, as Justin said, folkfest.org, pfs.org for Philly Folksong Society. Justin, anything else you want to pitch?
I've got to plug some of the great live stream concerts we've got coming up on Wednesday. We've got Carly Burris, who's a folk country artist out of Nashville, who I adore. Really, really love her stuff. We've never gotten to present her before. On the 8th, we're going to have Jillian Nicola, who is somebody that we've had at the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance Conference. I think I first met her at Folk Music Ontario. But just we
featured her at FAI 2 years ago. She played the Nerfer Room. I think that's where I first met her.
She is one of those artists. She's an artist. She takes care of artists in her hometown. She presents artists. She elevates other voices. But at the same time, her voice is stunning. She has these shades of Laura Marling to her voice, which if you don't know who Laura Marling is, Laura Marling was Marcus Mumford of Mumford & Sons' girlfriend who helped break that act because she was much more famous than he was in the UK. And she is just a stunning songwriter that I've loved for years. Jillian is probably the first artist that I've heard where I've heard shades of that voice and then recognize the songwriting to back it up. She's of that caliber and level. I'm super excited about that. On 7/11, we have Jeff Daniels, who's doing a fundraiser for us. All of the proceeds go to benefit the Philadelphia Folksong Society. And yes, that Jeff Daniels, we are talking full-on Dumb and Dumber, Arachnophobia, The Newsroom, To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. He is a phenomenal musician. A lot of people don't know that. He's put out 9 albums, and he played the Philadelphia Folk Festival. And the way that he played the Philadelphia Folk Festival was actually through Johnny Gallagher Jr., who is a phenomenal artist and actor, most recently seen in the film Underwater this year with Kristen Stewart. But he's been in a ton of phenomenal films, television shows, and Broadway. He won the Tony for Spring Awakening, Duncan Sheets musical. But Johnny Gallagher Jr. grew up at the Philadelphia Folk Festival, same as me. His amazing dad, John Gallagher Sr., is somebody who also is just a surrogate part of my family who I adore. And I adore Johnny and his whole family. But Johnny was on this great TV show called The Newsroom, and he and Jeff can play during, and after shooting. And, Johnny said, hey, you've got to come to Philly sometime. So thanks to Johnny, Jeff knew who we were. So he came to Philly while he was doing rehearsals for To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. And he played 2 phenomenal sets. And we're so excited to have him doing this for us as a fundraiser against 7/11. 7/13, Sarah Wheeler is a phenomenal queer artist from British Columbia, also a cancer survivor who brings so much to everything that she does. And then from the UK, Ireland, Scotland, the whole melting pot of amazingness, we have the Screaming Orphans on July 19th. And so many other wonderful people. Just really, really excited for the fact that I'm getting to present artists that I love. And that's kind of why I don't ever take any of this for granted. I work so incredibly hard so that I can keep this amazing train that I boarded running.
And folks can find all that schedule on pfs.org. Is that right, Justin?
That's right, pfs.org for everything surrounding the organization, folkfest.org for your festival tickets and more information there.
And you can join us. I'm sure Ethan will be streaming that weekend. I've just bought my tickets, so I'll be streaming that weekend as well. Yeah. Justin, thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you both so much for inviting me on. This has been an absolute pleasure. Again, you have said it once, you'll say it many times. You are two guys who happen to be, white, cis, and of a certain age, but you are self-aware. You have your ears and your hearts open, and you have ridiculously good taste in music, no matter who it's coming from. I've appreciated that about both of you for so many years, and I'm really, really excited to see what y'all are going to be able to continue doing during this. And I appreciate you supporting everything that I've been working on and everything that the Philadelphia Folksong Society and Philadelphia Folk Festival are doing.
Well, that is definitely the new catch line for our podcast, is that quote. That's just so you know.
That is that quote.
But thank you so much. We'll talk soon, and thank you.
Good seeing you. Oh.
Well, I saw him reach. I thought he was ending the stream, so I knocked. All right, hold on. I'm bringing you back, Justin. I saw you going like that, and I thought you were going to end it. That's all good. I was like, I'll make it easier.
Show us your shirt, Justin. You were showing us your shirt.
Oh, my shirt says actually "Folk the Vote."
Folk the Vote.
Because I'm hoping that everyone on this stream is registered and ready for action and for change. But just in case, here's a nice little reminder.
Absolutely. Awesome. And thanks again, Justin. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks so much.
Gotcha.
Have a good night.
That was just Nordell, Executive Director of the Philadelphia Folksong Society, cartoon voice, cartoon director, just such a spectacular human being. I've appreciated what he's done in our community, around our community, and for the community, and he is totally messing with us. We can still see him, and I love him.
It was funny. Ethan and I were chatting before the podcast tonight, and we said, well, it's probably going to be shorter because, our past guests rather have been musicians, and so we've given them a block of a couple of songs, and we're like, well, okay, so it'll be 10 to 15 to 20 minutes shorter, and then we realized that it's me and Ethan and Justin talking, and if you haven't noticed out there in Radio Land, we can talk. But such a great conversation with Justin. We really ran the gamut tonight, and just really great to talk to him.
And thanks to you guys for coming over. I know for some of you guys, the transition from Facebook over to Twitch initially was a little bumpy, but most of you guys have started coming over regularly. And what I found interesting, Jake and I are trying to figure out sort of the mechanics of this and making sure that we're doing it in a way that feels inviting to you. And one of the things that I've found particularly interesting is the number of people watching the show ends up going up an hour and a half in. Like it's not one of those things where we see the numbers do that throughout the evening. They kind of, there's the Facebook drop and then climbs back up the hill. So we appreciate that. Now we've got some announcements for you guys. We got some stuff that we're really excited about coming down the pike. I do want to say that we really appreciate, for the folks that are listening in podcast land, audio podcast land, and watching us over on YouTube. I've got, you guys probably can't see it, but on the thing behind me, there's a little digital screen, and it actually in real time captures the number of YouTube subscribers that we have. And what I find, I've actually focused it on that as opposed to me. What I found, generally speaking, is we've tried to learn this process. Oh.
That's quite the zoom there, Ethan.
Yeah, as we've tried to learn this process and figure out how to measure success. Pretty much everyone tells you the first 100 people is the hardest and takes the longest. And I've watched in a week us go from 2 to 25 people. So I'm really hoping we can hit that 100 mark by the end of August. That's my goal. So anything that you guys can do, if you enjoy this, please share it. Like, invite people in. We appreciate it. We really do. It helps us grow, and it helps us get more wonderful people like Justin to have these conversations, with. So that being said, Jake, would you like to talk about the upcoming special event?
Sure. So, for those of you who know us, we are also involved with the lounge stage at Falcon Ridge. We've been running that for 11 years. This year would have been our 12th year running it live. And unfortunately, that festival is not happening at the in Hillsdale, New York. However, the festival is going to be happening, and the lounge stage at Falcon Ridge is going to be happening. We've got some announcements there coming up later this week. We also, this Thursday, are going to be running the Falcon Ridge Most Wanted preview show. So this Thursday, July 2nd at 8 p.m., Zoe Mulford, Scott Cook, and The Promise is Hope will be joining us for the preview tour. We are very invested with the festival. We really believe in this festival. We've been going there a long time, and we had told Ann Saunders, the director, a while ago that this year we would be putting on the preview tour. And clearly, it became apparent that the festival itself was not going to happen, that live concerts weren't going to happen. But thanks to all of you, actually, who are watching now, we've gotten some experience under our belt with this whole live streaming thing. We are using StreamYard, just streaming live to Facebook and Twitch, and we wanted to help the festival, and so Tribal Mischief will be presenting the Falcon Ridge preview tour this Thursday, July 2nd at 8 p.m. with those fantastic artists.
It's going to be interesting. I think, the most important thing that Jake and I sort of, we spent a lot of time talking about whether we could present the kind of show that we wanted to present, given sort of the technology out there. And what we found with this particular platform is we have the ability to really specifically talk about and have artists interact. Now, you still can't have us sing together, unfortunately, because time delay will make that impossible. But you can still have 3 artists up and have them talk and have them chat and have them cheer each other on and have them interact with all of you. So this Thursday is essentially our first time giving that a shot. I think we're going to be on our Twitch channel as always. I don't know, we may get administrative rights to also broadcast on the Falcon Ridge Facebook page. But if not, we will find another associated Facebook page to do the usual half-hour start over there before moving over here. So I again want to thank you guys so much for sort of sticking with us. We've got a lot of sort of new plans down the line that we're trying to open up and get moving forward on. We're excited. We're going to be sharing a lot of new projects with you over the next month or two. And thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for giving us the feedback. And really, the feedback's the best part. Let us know what's working for you and what isn't. And we're just like with our guests, we're happy to learn.
So you can check us out on Facebook.com/Tribal Mischief Productions. We stream live every Sunday at 8 p.m. on Twitch.tv/Tribal Mischief. You can check out our website, tribalmischief.com. Look at Tribal Mischief on Facebook this week, or the Falcon Ridge page, as we will be updating on the preview tour. We've got a lot of great announcements. We've got a lot of great guests coming up for the remainder of our season. We're working on finishing that schedule for you, and as we have our guests and artists booked, we will be announcing that. So thank you so much for your support. please share this podcast with your friends. We say this about our music and Pesky J. Nixon. The less you pay, the more we hope you share it with friends. And you're paying nothing for these streams, so we hope you share it with your friends.
Honestly, we're not asking you for money right now, and the goal isn't for us to do that for a good long period of time. We're just asking for you, if you're finding some value here, to share it. And that'll make the difference between this being successful or not. So thank you. And next week, we've got not just the show on Thursday, but we've got another fantastic guest coming on Sunday. We'll announce that, I think, on Tuesday. I've got to put together the graphics still. So thanks for tuning in. And, for Jake and Ethan, we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.